I'm going to just start with a few general comments that I want to make about the law school application process and what you can be doing, particularly for a timeline. Now, I'll send this document out to everyone. This is something that I made for prospective students thinking about political science. If you don't know me, I'm Dr. Ross from the Department of Political Science and Public Administration. I teach constitutional law and judicial process courses here at FGCU, and I do some unofficial pre-law advising because we don't have an official pre-law advisor, but I try to offer help where I can to whichever students want it. Most of the time I, only see the students who are in my class, but these kind of events allow me to reach out across campus. And even if this is the only interaction we ever have, you can, if you are applying to law school later, you can reach out and ask me to look over a personal statement or ask me questions. I am happy to do that. So let me just show you quickly. So political science obviously is the most common major, but even political science is probably less than 25% of majors are coming out of political science to law school. So the truth is that this could go on for pages and pages, that you could have any major in the university. There are people who major in art history, there are people who major in chemistry, and everything in between. Basically, my advice is always to major in whatever you're interested in, because you're going to work harder at that major and you're going to get more out of it. You're going to improve your skills, your analytical reasoning. All of those things will be better if you're working on material that you find interesting. And the truth is, law schools aren't looking for a specific major. So there's not something that you need to do, some major or minor or course that you need to take to stand out to law schools. They want to see that you have accomplished in your college career something. You've done something that interests you, and you've gained those kinds of skills. So you see here the programs that are usually towards the top of the list. A lot of social science and humanities programs that require a lot of reading and writing and analysis. So English and history and philosophy are often towards the top of the list. So anything like that where you're doing a lot of analytical thinking is going to be helpful. The other thing I wanted to point out is this timeline that I have here on the second page. Also, you can see my contact information there. So you can, like I said, reach out to me. But students are often concerned about what they should be doing at each step of the process. And most of the time, it's good news that you're doing, just by being here, you're getting information at an early enough stage that you're going to be in this timeline. So that's good news. What I say for freshman, sophomore year, you should just be doing the things you'd normally do anyway. Finding a major, finding classes that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, finding things on campus and in the community that you want to work on, that you're passionate about, following those interests so that you can you can explore the things that interest you in college, so that you can build on those in the next stage of your life. So you'd be doing that anyway. That's nothing special for law school. The other thing you should be doing is trying to figure out if law school is actually right for you. So that can be a harder task than, some people will have a family member they can ask, but not everybody does. There are plenty of people who don't know any lawyers personally. And so you should try and find whatever connections you have to just get someone's feedback on what their job is like. So ask around. You never know who's, you might have a friend whose older sibling is in law school, or, a family friend. So, find out that information, see what it's really like to be a lawyer. Some people have the opportunity to do, if they have the time, they'll do an internship. I know students have done internships with the local court here in the 20th Judicial Circuit, with the Public Defender's Office, with local law firms. That can be another really great way to see an inside look at what the life of a lawyer is. Because the most important thing is that you know this is the right path for you, that you know what you're getting into. You don't want to be in your second year of law school saying, nah, maybe this wasn't the right choice. You want to know that going in, and that's going to make the whole process a lot easier. Because when you get to your junior year, that's when you're going to start really preparing. You're going to start prepping for the LSAT. I usually say you should be starting to prepare about now during your junior year so that you're ready to take the LSAT in the summer. And the LSAT is offered several times a year. I think I actually have, I don't know if you can see the LSAT test dates are, well, I won't put it up. They just released test dates for excuse me, for the next year, and they are offering it a couple times over the summer and periodically through the year. So there are a few opportunities, but the best time to take it is over the summer because you're taking fewer classes, you have fewer distractions, less going on, and you have that time to really prepare. So my advice is always in your junior year, start preparing and then plan to take it in that summer before your senior year. So that you can at least take it once in the summer. So if you have to take it again, it's not as nerve-wracking because you've already tried it once. But it's best to do that if, ideally you get the score you want and you're done with the LSAT, which is by far the biggest hurdle to the application process. And then you can get going right away, get that personal statement done, get your letters of recommendation lined up, and you can be among the first applicants to apply in September when the admissions usually open. The admissions process is going to be, it's a rolling basis for most schools, so they'll be accepting applications all year long. But my advice is always to get in as early as you can. If you're ready, you'll look more prepared because you are. And that's when, at the beginning of the process, they have the most seats available, the most scholarship money. So the sooner the better. And if you follow this timeline, the students who follow that have found some pretty good success in recent years. And the personal statement, when you get to that stage, make sure you're talking to faculty about that because it's really hard to write. It's hard to write about yourself, and it's hard to know what to write. But for those of us who've read a bunch of these, we can usually help you out pretty easily by just having a quick conversation. So don't struggle on your own with any step of this. Reach out to faculty. We want to help. And also talk to us when you're talking about which schools to apply to. The last thing I want to point out here is that there are a lot of law schools in Florida, but there are 5 that stand out that they have a national ranking. They have higher bar passage rates, employment rates for their graduates. And when it comes down to it, these are the 5 schools that I tell students to consider applying to. There might be another one that I'd add to the list, maybe, but these are 5 stand out from the rest. And we are lucky enough to be joined by a representative from one of the top 2 schools in Florida at the FSU College of Law. So I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Ralph Kafert right now, and he will tell us all about what FSU has to offer.
All righty. Well, hello, my name is Ralph Kiefer, and I'm an admissions officer with the Florida State University College of Law. My primary responsibilities are advising prospective students about the application admissions process and informing them about our law school and its programs. In this presentation, I will be speaking generally about the law school application process and will interject information specific to our law school. So while this presentation is about the application process for prospective 1L applicants, I want to also let you know about all of our programs that we offer that may be of interest to you. So we do have multiple programs options, including our Juris Doctor program, which is a traditional 3-year full-time program. We also have we have 3+3 programs with 5 different undergraduate institutions in the state of Florida. Unfortunately, Florida Gulf Coast is not one of those, but maybe sometime in the future, maybe never can tell. We have 9 joint graduate pathways agreements with master's programs at FSU, and a 30-credit-hour Juris Master program for individuals who do not intend to practice law, but who could benefit from some legal training. We also have the Summer for Undergraduates program, which is designed to acquaint students with the study of law and to assist them in acquiring skills that will benefit their undergraduate and future law school studies. Feel free to access their website page in case you're interested in applying. And of course, we are accepting applications as we speak. So. Okay, so on to the JD application process. The Law School Admissions Council, or LSAC, serves as a clearinghouse for law school applications. Through the LSAC website, prospective students can access the applications for all ABA approved law schools, and each law school provides a link on their own website that takes the applicant to that school's specific application. Common information that can be shared among all applications, such as name, address, contact information, education, etc., will populate to each initiated application from the applicant's LSAC account, and then the applicant will complete the law school specific questions unique to each individual school. Some questions specific to our application include legal interest areas, past participation in our Summer for Undergraduates program, specific character and fitness questions, and the names of relatives who attended our law school. For each item noted here, I also noted how the item fits into our application requirements. So to start with, the application itself includes which includes the online application and all specific and school-specific questions. A personal statement, a resume, educational transcripts from all collegiate level institutions that awarded academic credit. This includes transfer credit and credit from both graduate and undergraduate programs. You will request that each school send your official transcripts directly to LSAC, and addendums, both required and optional where applicable, are also part of law school applications. So to start with, there are character fitness disclosures. Most law schools will have character and fitness disclosures questions on their application. Pay close attention to the application and what it is asking you to disclose. Not all schools will ask for the same disclosures. Most schools will require an addendum explaining an issue, as well as documentation showing that each issue has been resolved and that any corrective actions have been ordered or orders have been satisfied. Also consider checking with the bar in the state where you plan to practice to see what questions they will ask on their bar application. If they differ greatly, you may want to consult with the bar or with the law school to see if additional disclosures are encouraged to mirror the state bar application for that state. Letters of recommendation, your recommenders will upload those directly to LSAC. Interviews. Most law schools do not have a required interview component. Some law schools offer optional interviews. We provide a question on our application for applicants to let us know if they would like to be considered for an interview, and we determine if the applicant will be offered an interview. We recommend that you take advantage of these opportunities if available. There's also an application fee, and the application fee amount for law schools differ from law school to law school. But some have no fee, while others have application fees well over $100. Research each school to find out if application fee waivers are available. Many will provide one if requested.
If I could just question in the chat about what a character disclosure is.
Okay, character and fitness disclosures are questions that are on the application, and what we're basically dealing with in our application are going to be issues related to academic problems or issues, whether it's grades, whether it's the honor code violations, or you were kicked out of school, et cetera, those types of things. And then there's legal ones. Obviously, those can be traffic issues, they can be criminal arrests, et cetera, and anything else like that. So those are the kind of disclosure we're talking about specifically as far as character and fitness is concerned. The Juris Doctor application, part of that, when we receive an application, we're going to get what we call a credential assembly service report from LSAC. This report is a report that law schools receive, and they include a breakdown of your undergraduate GPA across all institutions attended, if there were more than one, as well as the GPA from the institution where you obtained your undergraduate degree. It ranks your GPA for each semester in comparison to others at the same institution when you attended. It includes all of your LSAT scores for the last 5 years, as well as information about canceled tests and absence or no-show tests during that same time period. It includes your LSAT writing sample. And please note that the LSAT writing sample is mandatory, and LSAC will not issue a CAS report to us until you have completed this requirement. Without this writing sample and a CAS report, we cannot promote your application for a decision. It also includes copies of all your undergraduate and, if applicable, graduate transcripts from each institution attended, and it includes any letters of recommendation submitted with your application. So evaluative criteria or evaluation criteria related to credentials. When evaluating an application, we start with the credentials of the applicant, which includes the LSAT or GRE scores. We do accept the GRE as an option, and cumulative GPA. We can consider applications with a GRE score submitted as long as the applicant has not taken the LSAT. Even though law schools primarily utilize a holistic approach to the review of applications, the test score and cumulative GPA are still the most important factors of an application. Like us, most law schools consider the highest test score and do not average test scores when making decisions. The LSAT score is one of the best historical predictors of success in law school, as well as bar passage, which is why it is weighted so heavily by most law schools. Taking the test multiple times is encouraged if the first score falls below the medians on your target school. Once you have your test score, utilize the tool on the LSAC website to plug in your LSAT score and GPA to identify your reasonable chance of acceptance at various law schools of interest. Next, we're going to kind of move on to the soft factors. So your personal statement, please definitely take it seriously. Each law school is looking for something different, so make sure you write about what they are asking you for. Have others review your personal statement, as Dr. Ross has noted, and be open to corrective criticism. Be prepared to write down versions or write different versions, of your personal statement based on the requirements of different schools. So some schools will actually ask questions that you'll respond to. Some will give some prompts as to ideas that you can write with, and some will be wide open and like ours. So if you have any questions, always contact an admissions officer at a law school if you have any questions about what they expect. So in your resume should focus on your accomplishments, including outstanding academic work, leadership roles and activities, and your employment experience. Try to keep it to from 1 to 2 pages, and do not include anything related to high school, unless you are one of those individuals who did do courses while you were in school and there is some overlap there, especially if you're talking about employment or activities that may be pertinent. So that is still okay. We're just not interested really in your GPA from high school, where you attended high school or anything like that. So letters of recommendation. Some schools require letters while others do not. Some require a specific number of letters. Some schools prefer only academic references, while others allow both academic and professional references. They should be written by someone with direct knowledge of your work ethic and aptitude for success in law school. What a recommender says about you is more important than who they are. And never ask family or friends to write letters of recommendation for law school. And then we're going to also discuss optional essays and addendums on the next 2 slides. So we talked a little bit about addendums already as far as character fitness, but there's also those would be required if they're applicable to you. But then we also have optional essay options as well that you could potentially take advantage of. So writing an optional essay is your choice, but if you choose not to, you may be passing up a great opportunity to provide some great information about yourself. We give you a chance to provide insights that the admission committee can that could go beyond the numbers. They also provide an additional opportunity to highlight your strengths and to convince the committee that you deserve to be admitted. We offer students the opportunity to provide a diversity statement. Addendums may be required under certain circumstances, and these are kind of what we've already kind of talked about a little bit. Some schools limit the scope of addendum, and some allow for optional statements. The most common purposes of addendums are to explain weaknesses in your application, such as character and fitness issues, which can be academic related, such as probation, plagiarism, cheating. They could be law violations such as traffic infractions, arrests, detentions, probation. They could be financial responsibility related issues such as issues with your credit rating or bad debt. Other academic related issues such as deficiencies and changes in grade patterns are sometimes something that someone will do as an addendum. We're okay with that. LSAT related issues such as multiple LSAT scores, canceled LSAT tests, or not showing up for LSAT tests are also commonly an addendum subject matters, if you will. To provide new information after you have submitted your initial application is another reason you might want to do an addendum, such as increased GPA, new honors or recognition, or changes to your resume. You should only file an optional addendum if you can contribute useful information to the admissions committee. So now we're going to kind of look at some application mistakes, common mistakes that people make with their applications. Your application should be free of errors in spelling and grammar. Use the spell check and grammar check feature on your computer. There's no excuse not to do so. Follow directions on the application. This is critical. Be sure to read each question carefully and respond to each appropriately. Provide the information that the law school is asking for, not what you want to provide. Failing to disclose character and fitness issues is a character and fitness issue and can be worse than not disclosing an issue in the first place. Also, not disclosing can come back to haunt you when you are applying for the bar. They may actually force you not only to amend their application, but also ours. You may actually even have completed law school and have to go back and amend your application. When submitting the same essay to multiple schools, make sure that you replace the school name and other references to that school when you are applying to a different school. There's nothing like getting a personal statement where somebody's talking about wanting to go to the University of Florida. Sorry, Brandon. When they're applying to our law school. Don't waste your personal statement by concentrating on telling us about other people or interjecting a lot of quotes and that type of thing. Your personal statement is not you. Try not to jam too much in your personal statement. Start by determining a focus and a theme, then draft an outline, then just write. Don't worry about writing the perfect statement out of the box. You can always hone it later. Okay, so what does FSU Law value? Well, while not all inclusive, this is a list of things that we are looking for in an application right here, this list. These are skills and traits that are incredibly valuable in law school and in a legal career. While completing your application, consider how you can demonstrate these types of skills and traits in your personal statement, in your resume, and other optional addendum. So how can you stand out? I get this question all the time. So first of all, with your personal statement, consider telling a compelling story about yourself. This is your first impression beyond the numbers, so make sure you use it to your advantage to get our attention. Always present a coherent package. Give us a good sense of who you are, why you want to go to law school, and what you aspire to be. Be consistent across your entire application. Don't tell us you want to help underprivileged in your personal statement and then have no applicable volunteer outreach work on your resume. Take your time. This is an application for a professional program that can lead to a professional career. Approach this application professionally and put in the time so that you can submit the best application possible. The devil is definitely in the details. Even small errors can add up and negatively affect a reviewer's opinion of you. Again, put the time into your application. It will be worth it. Keep in mind that what we are looking for are people who we feel will make good attorneys. Also, during the application process, and even now, while you're actually looking at law schools or considering law school, maximize face time. Don't be afraid to be seen. The law school search is the beginning of your law school networking process, and it can start well before you ever apply to law school or take the LSAT. Because a career in law is so dependent on network, you need to develop your networking skills by meeting people and developing relationships. Law schools provide many opportunities for this prior to and during the admissions process. This can include admitted students events, scheduling visits, and special programs like our Summer for Undergraduate program. And even where we have taken and gone to online or virtual events, look for those and take advantage of those as well. Also, if you are interested in a particular school, faculty and alumni of that school will normally be open to you if you reach out and express your interest to them. Start to develop these connections prior to and during law school while you set up with a network of people who can provide mentoring and advice as well as potential job leads. And this will open up their network to you as well. So now we're going to kind of talk about our particular application cycle, if you will. So FSU Law application window, our deadlines vary, right? Our application deadlines vary greatly among law schools. So do your research and know the timeline for each law school you're interested in. Our 1L JD application cycle is we open our application September 1st each year and end it in July each year. Just remember that our JD program is a full-time program and we do not have a part-time program. Also, 1L start in the fall semester only. We do not have spring or summer admissions. We have multiple application deadlines, including an early binding deadline of December 15th, a priority deadline of March 15th, where individuals meeting this deadline will receive priority consideration for both the seat and a scholarship if they qualify for one. And our final deadline is July 31st. Students who do not meet the priority deadline but do meet the July 31st deadline will receive a regular decision. The early binding decision requires an applicant to make a commitment to a particular school when they apply. They sign a contract where they agree to accept their seat if offered, and they also agree to withdraw any applications regardless of status, whether their application, they're just an applicant, they've been admitted, or they are even confirmed. As noted, our early binding deadline is December 15th with a notification of decision in January. Other law schools will have this option, will set their application deadline sometime in the fall with a notification of decision sometime in the late fall or early spring. Applicants should not apply to more than one school using this option. It is actually, if you do get admitted to two schools you've applied early binding, that is actually a character and fitness issue that you might actually get in trouble for. It actually can be reported to LSAC and the ABA, believe it or not. So a regular decision option does not obligate an applicant to accept an offer if admitted, and they can hold multiple offers from different schools at once. So if you are not doing the early binding, you can go with a regular decision and meet our priority deadline or our final deadline. You're not obligated to take your seat if you're offered. All applications meeting either our priority deadline or our final deadline, as I noted previously, with a regular decision. The earliest decision date that any law school can set for an applicant to accept their seat based on a regular decision is April 1st. We have rolling admissions, which means that applications are reviewed as they become complete at various intervals throughout the cycle, and decisions are sent out on a rolling basis. Our recommendation on when it's best to apply is when you're ready and will have the best complete application that you can present. With that being said, you may also want to think about other things, such as if you apply early, you may get an earlier decision. Law schools that admit 1Ls for fall matriculation start admitting students in the fall of the prior year. Law schools may receive anywhere from 2/3 to 3/4 of their applications from late December through March. If you are ready to go in September, why wait and be part of that deluge? That's crazy. You may want to consider the application deadlines and the potential for a school to run out of seats and scholarship funds as well. Not meeting a certain deadline or applying later may put you at a disadvantage for both a seat and a scholarship. So this is the profile for our fall 2020 class. This includes a lot of great information that may be of interest to you, but I wanted to specifically bring the attention to the bottom right corner, which includes the LSAT GPA information for this class. This is, of course, the fall 2020 class. I did talk about this earlier a little bit, but I wanted to revisit this issue so that you can, hopefully we'll take this to heart. The median of a 161 and 3.73 GPA are the numbers we are using as a basis to determine how competitive an applicant is for our school for fall 2021. In general, an applicant with numbers at or above these numbers, would be an ideal candidate for our law school for this application cycle, as the numbers are concerned. That does not mean that someone will not be admitted if one or both of these numbers are below the medians. It all depends on how far they are below the median, if one is higher and can balance out the other, and what our applicant pool looks like at any given point in the application cycle. To consider how competitive you are for the schools you are interested in, you will want to find out what the LSAT and GPA medians are for those schools during the application cycle you will be applying. You will even want to find out what ours are at a given point, because they do change from year to year. So that concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions. I'm gonna go ahead and stop my share and go from there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and right now, while I'm thinking about it, go ahead and put my contact information in the chat as well, if anybody wants to grab that right now. So okay, I'm ready to go.
Something I'd like to know is, once you get there, is it mandatory to pick a specialty? For instance, if you want to practice real estate law or criminal law, do you have to choose to specialize if you go to Florida State Law?
Okay. You actually don't ever have to specialize at all or choose a specialty. You can generalize. But the reality of the situation is, what you want to think about is, in medium-sized to large-sized cities, most of the legal jobs are going to be looking for someone with a specialty, because the jobs that are going to be offered are going to be in a particular area of law. So that's what you want to think about. If you are thinking about being the country lawyer and going back to a small town where you may be from, generalizing is probably the way to go, because those individuals are going to go home, hang their shingle on the wall, and take all comers. So you may literally have to generalize in a number of areas. You may need to be able to do a divorce one week. Another week you might have to deal with a criminal case. Another week you might be dealing with a closing for a real estate transaction. So you may actually have to generalize in that kind of situation. But there's no pressure for you to ever make a concentration choice. But if you are going to concentrate, you want to do so probably toward the beginning of your 2L year, because you don't want to spend too many of your credits on experimental classes, if you will. You can take one or two, but the fact is that even though what you learn from those classes will be applicable to other things, you will be losing opportunities to take classes in the concentration area as long as you continue to drag on with that decision.
Okay.
Quick
Thanks.
follow-up to that. I sometimes talk to students who are concerned because they are applying and they don't know exactly what they want to specialize in. Sounds like that's not something that they should really worry about. But sometimes they do have special interests, and some schools have particular specialties. Are there any areas of law that that FSU is particularly strong on that students should consider?
Yes, we do have resources, basically applied to business law, environmental law, international law, and criminal law. We also do have a large number of courses in litigation, and we are also you might say, advancing our civil rights and social justice area as well. That is an area that we are trying to grow. So those are some, but we do have courses in pretty much every area of law. And so whatever your interest, we probably can help you with it.
Great.
I have a question about the way that you guys look at the GPA. So do you guys just use the GPA from LSAC that they give you when you submit your transcript?
Yes, we do use the LSAC GPA, even for our own students. So what LSAC does is they're going to take all your transcripts in all grades that go into making your first bachelor's degree. They're going to create a GPA. They are going to neutralize different grading systems and things like that, so that we literally can look apples to apples from individuals from school to school. So that's the way it's going to work. So there, while it may not differ very much, the GPA we see may be a little bit different than what's on the transcript.
Another thing I want to ask is, what would happen to a candidate if they graduate from undergrad with a higher GPA than they put on their application?
At any point in the application cycle, we encourage you to go ahead and send an updated transfer or have an updated transcript sent. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And when you do, before you matriculate, you will have to provide us with a final transcript. As far as decisions are concerned, when you get that many credits accumulated, your GPA is not going to change that much. It's just not going to. When you're talking about you're closing in on 120 credit hours, it's just not going to change that much.
Okay.
But you are welcome to at any point bring it to our attention that that your GPA has gone up, because the difference between a 3.73 and a 3.75 could be very different in the decision based on what the median is.
Okay, that makes sense.
I had a question. You were discussing the personal statement and how there should be like a part of it that says, or maybe you should like talk about why you want to go to law school. I've been like writing mine for months and like tweaking it, and it's just mainly about like where I volunteer and why I volunteer there and my advocacy. But it's really hard for me to like, it just feels unnatural to put in why I want to go to law school with how it is now. So is that okay if I don't talk about that?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And what you want to think about is, can we intuitively, by reading your statement, understand that? And
Okay.
if that is so, and ask other people that question, and if that's so, then you've hit the nail on the head.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go ahead and offer, Sarah, if you want to send me your personal statement, I can give you a little feedback on that.
Oh
And
yeah, that'd be perfect. Thank
yeah,
you.
that's something I generally tell all students to try, and even if it is a little awkward, it's helpful if that last paragraph is, okay, that's where I've been and here's where I'm going. You know, here's why I think this is the next step. I always feel like that's a good way to end a personal statement, by showing the kind of forward movement in your life and career. So we can work one-on-one on that. And
Okay.
an offer to everybody in here, anyone else who's currently working on a personal statement, just send it my way and we can schedule a meeting. And also, I'll just point out, we have a representative from Career Services here, and she wants you to know that the Career Development Services has a resource there as well for they have resources for students working on personal statements and resumes and all of those other things. So make sure you use those resources that are available, where we want to help. So there's a few questions in the chat that I want to make sure we get to. So a couple of folks have asked for if they can get a copy of your slides, or once the class of 2020 breakdown that you showed, if you would be able to share those.
Yes.
And then we have a question about taking a gap year between graduation and law school. So
Right.
what are your thoughts on that?
Nothing wrong with that at all. And actually, I encourage people, to really be self-reflective when they're making the decision to go to law school, and the timing of it, because are you going to be ready? Do you feel like you're ready to do law school right now? Because, there's nothing more tragic than rushing the process and then finding out this is not what I want to do. So definitely, take the time. If you need to do the gap year, do something productive with that time. One of the things you want to keep in mind is this may be an opportunity to get ready for law school, but it's also an opportunity to do things to develop yourself as well. And also, the Florida Board of Bar Examiners in particular will actually ask you what you are doing for any full month that exists on your application to the bar that you have not covered by either education or employment.
It's good to know. I often, with that question, I'll get students who ask if they should take a gap year, or if they don't get into the school they want, start somewhere else and then try to transfer, which I usually discourage. But I know it's possible to transfer, but from what I understand, it's not necessarily an easy process or a frequent path that people take.
Yeah, and also schools will limit the number of transfers they take in too. We're losing people to transfers to other schools, and we're gaining. We are getting more that come in than we're losing. But as far as that, it's an option to possibly get into that reach school, if you will, if you weren't able to get as a 1L. So it is an option to look, and we tell people about it all the time. We're not trying to take anybody's students away, any other law school students away, but we do want to make sure that people do realize that that is there if they want to, visit.
Okay, what other questions do we have?
I have a question. When you're looking at a student's profile, do you generally look at their course load also when calculating the GPA?
Actually, it's just straight, GPA. I mean, as far as course load is not really what's considered. Obviously, when you take when you're choosing your course load, that's your responsibility. If that is detrimental to your grades, that's obviously something you want to learn from that kind of a decision, and maybe not overload yourself. Because, but the reality is course load is not what we're looking for when we're looking through a transcript or a GPA. We're really looking for what courses you may have taken, and what your overall grades. We look at that as well, what grades you receive in each course as well. But again, we're really going to be mainly honing on that cumulative GPA.
To build off of that question, do you guys happen to look at the progression of grades? So if like in the first semester you may have gotten like 2 Bs, and then ever since then it had been straight A's, do you look at like a progression type thing?
We see that in that particular type of thing, it's not going to be as critical. But if you were actually in that situation where you may have been getting B's and C's, and then you went up, that may be actually something you may want to actually explain to us in an academic addendum, so that we understand the context of what was going on at the time when the lower grades were there.
And that's advice I usually give if it's part of your story for the personal statement. A lot of students will start in one major and realize, oh, I don't actually want to be a doctor or something, and end up in law school. That's part of the story that you can tell in the personal statement as well, to explain how you found your path and what got you to this point. We all have different ways of getting from point A to point B. So that can be it, but also an addendum is another way to do it. So however you want to make sure that in those places where you can have your personal story told, that you're telling it, where you have that control.
I have another question. So I've seen the tendency for a lot of schools that like if you have work experience, your chances of getting it, and you have like a edge, and you have better chances of getting in sometimes. So is there any particular like activities you can do as a KJD or someone coming right out of college that will kind of level you out alongside the people with work experience?
In our particular case, works experience isn't necessarily going to be an edge. Really and truly, what everybody brings a different package to the table. Some people had to work, so they really didn't have a choice. They had to work when they were going through school. Some people were able to get involved in more student organizational activities and things like that. Some people did have or did some volunteer work. Some people did a combination of all of that. So what I kind of like to let people know is it's not so much what it is that you did, it's what did you do with it. So did you develop and use and hone skills? Did you act like did you have the skills that lawyers need to be successful in law school and then also in the legal profession? Were you using those? Were you developing those? Were you honing those? So any opportunity that you have within your personal statement or your resume to be able to highlight those types of things, that's a really good thing to do. When you're doing your resume, don't just bullet point lists of things. Describe student organizational activities like jobs, and then enhance those things like I just mentioned. Same thing with your volunteer work. And then think, of course, in your employment, again, enhance those things. Don't just tell us what the job requirements were. Tell us what you did with it. Did you supervise? Were you, and that's leadership. Did you use communication skills, whether they are public speaking, writing, etc.? Did you have the opportunity, or were you asked to do special projects? So did you take initiative? Did you get through these tough times on a job then showed perseverance, that kind of stuff. So those, I literally, tell people all the time, we that list that was in the PowerPoint is a good point to list of things, but it's maybe even easier. Just Google what makes a good attorney, and you're going to get dozens and dozens of lists out there that have all kinds of altruistic, knowledge, skills, abilities, behavior, values, etc. Those are the kind of things that if you can illustrate those things, within your resume, your personal statement, realistically that is, then those are going to take it a notch up.
Is the summer program planned happening this year? Or?
Yes, it is, and I believe it is going to be virtual. And we have a little bit of time still. If anybody is still interested in applying, definitely check that out. But
yeah, I've made that announcement to political science majors, but in case you're not aware, there is a great program in the summer that FSU offers particularly for students who don't have those kinds of family background or connections, first generation college students who want to learn more about what it is to be a lawyer. It's a great program. And when is the application deadline for that?
I will look it up as we're sitting here chatting. But to give you a little bit of more background on the program itself, the program covers everything from the application and admissions process. It covers, basically it has mock classes. It brings in alumni to talk about what they're doing with their careers. So it literally takes it from the application admission process to getting to law school, a sample of what it's like to be in law school and what am I going to do with that degree after law school. So it's a really good opportunity, especially for someone who's on the fence about whether they want to do law. If you do not know by the end of that program, if you want to go to law school, whether or not, and that's if not is okay, then we're not doing our job. Obviously, it's designed to get all individuals who may be from underrepresented groups interested in law school, and that includes, like as noted, individuals who are not from lawyering families, if you will. So let's see.
Yeah, and I think it's April 1st was what I had written in my announcement. So I think that's the deadline that I saw when I last checked. So you still have time to apply if you're a junior now, if you're not graduating, then that is something to consider. Yeah, it's good to hear that that's going to be happening still in spite of the situation.
It's there. Let's see. So our deadline.
I sure hope it's April 1st, because that's what I've been telling people.
You were so close. April 2nd.
April 2nd. Okay,
close enough.
Yeah, close enough. Yes. And that is, again, to follow up, it's okay to find out that maybe law school isn't for you. It's just that we want to make sure you find that out before you've invested time and money into attending law school.
Absolutely.
That is the best time to figure that out is before you've started law school. So, yeah.
And I did notice a question someone asked about scholarships. And for incoming 1Ls, the way our scholarships work is this way. So everybody who applies gets considered for a scholarship. You don't have to apply for them or anything like that. Now, if you qualify for scholarships, we will actually inform you when we admit you. So obviously, if we're going to give you a scholarship, we're going to admit you too. So when we contact you for your decision, we will also tell you about the scholarship. If we don't say anything about the scholarship, there is not a scholarship. So in general, those individuals who are getting scholarships, we're starting at the medians in general. So again, looking at law school is if you're interested, you're competitive at the medians or higher, you're also more apt to get a scholarship if you're at the medians or higher.
Now, follow up on that. If a student isn't offered a scholarship before 1L, is there any opportunity if they overperform in their 1L year? Is there any reconsideration?
Yeah, we actually, the 1L scholarships are for all 3 years if they're awarded. I forgot to tell you that. So they are for all 3 years. But also, whether someone got a scholarship or not, there are options to apply for additional scholarships after the 1L year. That's summer scholarships for individuals who want to take courses during the summer, as well as for the 2 and then the 3L year. Those are most of those scholarships are going to be based on merit, but there is a very small pool of needs-based money, and that you do have to, of course, show need for that. For those merit-based scholarships, they may actually be totally merit-based. How have you done in law school so far? Or they may also be tied to as an area of interest, such as civil rights, environmental law, etc.
If there are no further questions, I think we can wrap things up there. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate